It's always a delight to see a franchise back in action and get a new installment or a long overdue remake. And while we have gotten a few of those remasters already this year from Nintendo, one that a lot of fans were looking forward to was Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, a remake of two Advance War games on the GBA. Fans eagerly anticipated this game as it's not only the first Advance War game since 2008, but also because the game was supposed to come out over a year and a half ago, but was delayed due to unfortunate current events. Funny enough, this isn't the first time this has happened with Advance Wars, as the original GBA games had a controversial release date as well. Wow, these games are kind of cursed. I'm glad the game is finally out, but I feel the game is like shoved into a sea of a bunch of releases. And a lot of people are going to skip on Advance Wars. Heck, I almost skipped out on Advance Wars, as not even 4 days later, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 released their DLC, Future Redeem. And let's not even mention how soon Tears of the Kingdom's coming out. So many games coming out right around the same time, but I know a lot of fans were looking forward to the game, and therefore I wanted to share my thoughts on it. This is more of a first impressions. I wasn't able to beat the game entirely. Heck, I could only access half of the game, but I'll talk about that later. I was able to play the game for a few hours and get a basic of the mechanics. And I played it enough to gather my thoughts on the game. So, is Advance Wars worth trying out? Let's find out. Advance Wars 1 and 2 are tactic games, similar to the Fire Emblem series, but also completely different. Instead of commanding knights, mages, and divine dragons, you command tanks, artillery, and vehicles. You play as the Orange Star Army, and your goal is to defend and conquer the Golden Continent from the Blue faction. There isn't too much of a story when it comes to twists and turns, as characters such as Andy and Max who lead the platoon against different commanding officers. I'm just gonna say it, the character art looks amazing. I know a lot of people may call it too anime or whatever, but I don't care. It is really impressive for a franchise like this that has been dormant for so many years to get this quality animation. And it reminds me of a cartoon or a comic. Each character also gets some voice-acted lines, with some serious talent such as Veronica Taylor, Christina V, Sung Wong Cho, and even Aaron Hansen from Game Grumps. It was weird seeing him in a Nintendo game, but still, just as cool. Each voice fits the character they portray well, and their in-game animations are on point. All the animations in the game in general look fun too. Your units look toy-like, almost as if they're on a model set. And when you see them up close on the field, they look like little action figures fighting each other. And I don't say this as an insult, as I think it fits the game tone extremely well. When units are destroyed, they don't die, they either explode in their vehicles or just fly off the screen. It ranges from cartoony to kind of violent if you think about it too much. So don't think about it too much. God, so many of my units just bite the dust. Some of your units may die, but that is a sacrifice they are willing to make. Alright, what's the gameplay like? Well, you carefully control your units to attack the enemy forces. However, strategy is key, as while you can win by defeating all the enemies, you can also take over their enemy base to instantly claim victory. There are so many layers to this game, from the amount of units you have to your conditions and terms to win the battle. Your units can range from foot soldiers, tanks, heavy tanks, artillery choppers, battleships, and tons more. Each soldier and vehicle having their advantages and disadvantages against your opponents. You also have your CO, commanding officer, to help you out, which can lead to some interesting advantages. For example, Andy's powers can increase the health of all your units to tune them up a bit. Max can make your troops stronger with close combat. Nell can increase luck on the battlefield. These little powers give you the slight advantage you need in order to win the battle. But don't get too cocky, as anything you can do, your enemies can do just as good, if not better. That includes taking down units, capturing your cities and base, and even doing their own CO powers, such as freezing the land and even getting a bonus turn. This adds to the challenge and makes every move crucial to victory. Even in casual mode, the game requires basic strategy. If you don't put thought into where you place these pieces, you will yield and be defeated. And there's no divine pulse that takes you back a few turns if you screw up. You live with those consequences. You can restart your latest turn if you made a mistake, but once the damage is done by your opponent, you can't change it back. You can't save the lives of those you lost. This isn't a game.
This is war.
Despite how scary I'm making it sound, it's such a refreshing challenge. It's not frustrating as each match tests your wits with placing the right piece in the right spot and getting the advantage. It can be super satisfying to get the best of the battlefield and have the upper hand, but can also quickly turn tense when your unit gets unexpectedly blown up and suddenly there's a disadvantage. You gotta really test your brain to see what moves you can make. Also, when you beat the level, you can go right into the action. There's no homeworld with chores and busy work for you to do. You just go from one area of the map to the next. It kind of cuts the pointless middleman, and while it sacrifices getting to know these characters personally, like you could in Fire Emblem, you do hear quips of the characters themselves, and get to know them basically through that. Regardless, it keeps the pace of the game going, which is needed for a game like this. Besides the main campaign, there are other things you can do, like buy maps for multiplayer and music tracks from Hochi's shop. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. It's Hachi, you uncultured swine. Hachi. His name is on the sign. Why can't you read, Past Random? Why can't you read? Yes, you can play with friends with local and online multiplayer. I didn't get a chance to play the multiplayer myself, but from what I could tell, it's good, but limited, as you can only do 1v1. To which, while it can be a downer for some, makes sense with the gameplay itself. The tracks in this game are really good. The tracks of you strategizing pump you up with every decision you make, while the tracks of your opponent do a good job of intimidating and frightening you. Although, some of it having a bit of a goofy tone to it, they're all genuine quality bops. Oh yeah, another thing you could do is the War Room. If you're like me and had a lot of trouble with strategizing where to go or what to do with Advance Wars, then you can train in the War Room. Try different strategies, do all you can to experiment, just so you get better with what you have and what you're able to work with. It's good practice. The game is not perfect, however, as I do have some issues with it. Well, one big issue with it. I know some people said they didn't like the graphics, but I don't care. I like the anime art style and I love the toy-like design. I think it works. What does bother me is that half of the remaster is locked. This is a collection of the first 2 games, but you can only play 1 game at the start. You have to finish the story of the first one to unlock the second one. It seems a little silly to do that. I don't mind this too much, as this is the first game for me in the series, but I imagine fans would be really frustrated to not be able to play the second game right away. That would be like taking the Reignited trilogy from Spyro and only having it so you could play the original Spyro the Dragon before you could unlock Ripto's Rage and Year the Dragon. It's strange and locks content from the game that you should have access to from the very beginning. It's unfortunately something to keep in mind when you're buying the game. Sure, you get 2 games for the price of 1, but you can't play the second one until you beat the first. So if you get bored with the first one or stuck, you can't go to it. You have to beat the first game. It's frustrating. But honestly, that's my biggest qualm with the game. As someone who's never played Advance War before, I thought this game was pretty neat. It seems like a fantastic reboot that fans will love and newcomers will enjoy if they give it a chance. I really hope more people give these games a try, as we need a variety in real-time strategy games other than Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is the king of that genre with Nintendo games, but it's nice to see a different variety of that, something to mix it up, something new to try. And it really stinks that a lot of people aren't going to play this game because so many other games are coming out. Still, when the game was delayed, I was worried it wasn't going to come out at all, and a lot of fans were going to be disappointed. So, despite everything, having a game eventually release is better than not having a game release at all. If you're a fan of the series, you probably got it already, but if it does interest you in any way, it's certainly worth giving it a shot, even if you wait for it to go on sale. What do you think of Advance Wars Reboot Camp? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button and stay tuned for more videos.
Stick this in your exhaust pipe and smoke it.